presented. I think that numbers really tell stories, and these numbers, the presentation of the money that we spent on responding and recovering from the pandemic is telling the story of San Antonio through this pandemic. And I think there's so many stories of frontline workers, of vaccination drives, of loss, families, children, those with special needs, our veterans, all touched by the incredible efforts to provide support. And so I thank everybody that works for the city, from every walk of the city that has done the work to make sure that we're recovering. I think we had a plan, we executed it, our plan worked, the energy came together, and I'm grateful for it. I'm deeply thankful to city staff, our healthcare workers, our teachers, our students who have been set back and need that help to move forward. There's still a lot of work to do, and so I'm grateful we're seeing this effort through. And I think to the mayor's point, $9 million out of 1.2, what did you say, billion? Ain't bad, right? I mean, it's pretty good that we've allocated that much, those funds. I do support the conversation going forward to governance. I also support maintaining the current framework for ARPA funding decisions and having at least the original amounts go back to their home committees. We've talked a lot about mental health as a public safety issue. It's the whole reason the mental health dollars went to that committee. So bringing those funds back home to public safety, I think, is crucial to continue that process. A process, by the way, where the community participated and gave input. I don't want to see that well thought out process and the public effectively ignored and pushed aside. For the extra, I'm a little confused about the numbers, so I'm going to ask you to help me, but are we talking about, is there an extra $6 million? Is that right? Over and above what was left over from the process?
Are you talking about ARPA, Councilwoman?
ARPA, yes, I'm sorry.
So we have $3.9 million that was in the presentation. And I think what the mayor did was he was adding it to the 3.7 from last week's conversation.
Okay.
Remember, the 3.7 was made up of $1 million for 988, 2.4 for a category that we did not get solicitations for, and then a couple $100,000 in seniors and youth.
So why not include that $6 million in the governance discussion, or go straight to committees?
That's what we're proposing.
Oh, that's what you're proposing.
Yes,
okay.
Yep.
So that $6 million is going to governance.
And it's 7.6 million. It's 3.9 plus 3.7.
Got it.
All 7.6 would go into that governance conversation, and then the respective committees that the mayor just mentioned.
Okay. Well, I look forward to that conversation. I'm going to switch over to Justina's presentation. Thank you, of course. Did you say the unemployment rate for San Antonio was 3.3%?
Yes, for December, it was 3.3%, just came out.
Okay. Can you tell me, how does that, can you put that in context with the enrollment rate for Ready to Work?
I can say that 3.6%, which it was in December, is 3.4% now, is a historic low. So that because the unemployment rate is so low, effectively zero once you get to 3.4%, it's really challenging to find people who are not working. But in San Antonio, we know that people are working. Their wages just aren't where they need to be. So the people that are working will be able to enroll in Ready to Work as long as they meet those income thresholds.
So it's not just entry into the workforce, but advancement, upskilling, things like that, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So I guess it's a good problem to have. It's hard to find people that don't have jobs, but Ready to Work is filling a different gap as well.
That is correct.
Okay.
Do you want to give the current stats?
Absolutely. The Ready to Work program, we now, at this point in time, have over 1,200 individuals enrolled in education and training programs. Over 3,600 have been interviewed by our intake partners, Workforce Solutions Alamo Colleges, Project Quest, and Restore Education, as well as their sub-partners. And we had over 10,000 applicants in total have already expressed interest in the program. So we are on track to make sure that we continue to serve our community and provide them with the education and training they need to better their lives and their families.
Great. Thank you so much for the update. And so maybe this is for Eric, but can you talk about what steps we're taking to improve hiring conditions for businesses? Is that part of this framework?
Hiring conditions?
Well, part of what Mike was talking about, how are we not just helping businesses to hire, but helping them to upskill? That's part of,
Well, it's the connection with employers and all different types of employers, and making sure that their hiring needs is being met by the organizations we contracted with, WSA, Alamo Colleges, and Project Quest, to make sure that the training or certification or education programs that the individuals go through tie and result in the employers hiring those individuals. We're not intending on having Alamo Colleges train or certify people in areas that we've received no feedback from the employers that they have a need. So it's really kind of we're brokering employer needs with the training programs is what we're doing.
I
We're
see.
brokering it.
okay, thank you. I'm going to switch lanes here, and we currently have, is it about 6 million variance in the amount collected from CPS? Do we have a plan in place to handle another large surplus from CPS? I think you talked a little bit about that, Justina.
Well, that's actually part of the financial policy conversation that the council is going to have this spring, that we've built into the budget calendar,
Okay.
so that we don't find ourselves in that position again. Right
Absolutely.
now, that $6 million is really, the majority of that is due to that first check we received. Since then, we've been pretty close to on par with budget on CPS revenue. So as we sit right now, we are not in the same position we were in last spring.
Okay. I mean, I think our summers aren't going to get any cooler, so we just should be
Right.
ready, right, for that. We should have that policy in place.
Right, and that's
Yeah.
why we'll have that policy conversation
Okay.
with the council in the spring, so that it's in place. We did push up CPS revenues in this year's budget, but nevertheless, given the impacts on climate and impacts on us directly, we'll need to be prepared to have that policy in place.
Thank you. You mentioned, Justina, a potential rate increase for solid waste. I'm curious, the calendar changes to pick up the recent changes that, like, they're not picking up on weekends. Has that made a dent at all in the? Hi.
Hi, Councilwoman. Thank you for the question. It absolutely has helped. It staved off a rate increase for this year, basically, but to just generally state why, we would have needed to purchase 7 garbage trucks, and I think we were estimating $3 million to do that. So we were able to make this change for far less.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. I also just a shout out to, they're doing a bang-up job. I think especially since the changes, it's been so smooth. We haven't had any
Thank you.
issues, not a lot of neighborhood complaints. It seems like the service has actually improved with those changes, so I really appreciate the work that you're doing, and of course that the crews are doing.
We had a few hiccups,
Okay.
but we're working our way through those, and it's certainly better for our staff, and I know that's going to be better for our customers too.
Yeah, absolutely. I have had no complaints in District 6, so I
Excellent.
appreciate it. Also, just real quick, great news on the $2 million for the airport. How are we going to talk about allocating that money back to the airport? When will we have those discussions?
Well, we'll do that through the normal budget process.
Okay.
Next B session, next week, you and the rest of the council will be getting an update on our terminal development plan. So money is an important factor there, and
Sure.
it's okay to be a little bit above budget out there at the airport right
Yeah,
now.
absolutely. And I'm excited to see the increase in airport passengers and returning to pre-pandemic levels. Thanks to Jesus, I don't know if he's here, and his team for continuing to work on increasing the number of destinations and partnerships. I know when I'm out in the community talking about the airport, people are seeing the changes and they're excited about what's to come. So, and that's not normal. Normally we hear the complaints about the airport. So I'm glad to see the positive reports about the airport.
Wait till next week.
All right, cool. I'm excited. One more thing, fantastic presentation, Justina. I think that I need to add to it that I feel like our hot tax is, I'm sure Elton John helped, but I think you're not giving Bad Bunny his due. I think that was pretty packed, so we thank them for that. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Cabello Havrda. Councilmember Courage.
Thank you, Mayor. I heard you say something just now about adjusting